And a couple, first off, a real PSA that really is not for very much of the public. So maybe no one cares, but otherwise no one will ever know about this. Added this thing for OAuth with database OAuth that allows you to log out, which is pretty much only useful for people initially setting up their connection. But you know, whatever. Here it is. If you have no connection and you mess up your configuration and you need to log out, it's on the first help page. The another PSA is that we've launched agentic mode. So this is a more public, interesting PSA in the chat. So just to prove it, I'm on Will's instance, which did not have the feature flag on before. Now it does. And if I ask, and also this is also going to show something interesting. I discovered this about Will's instance. So I'm just going to ask this question. It's got some localization, all kinds of fun stuff happening in this instance. And if you'll notice, the AI doesn't have very much interesting to say about this. That's because Will's got the AIC data feature off. So just to prove that it does work in this case, it doesn't work that well. So you really shouldn't turn that on. But you should allow the AI to see your results. But if you really don't want to, there it is. It still will be able to iterate as much as it can. So then the thing that I'm actually working on is if we, let's go home first, is persisting AI chats, so I hit AI assistant and rather than sending me to slash chat, it actually sent me to slash chat slash UID. And so and it gives me the count of users. But then if I go to the workbook, the chat followed me because it ended up in the URL here, and the chat's here. And then if I ask, always ask California as my follow, and then I realized it's actually really hard to type California. So I started asking Texas. So now it's got Texas, right? It showed it's changed the query. And if I tab back over to here, I'll see that this chat actually updated. This little state is what we do, so we don't want it to like run the query when it loads the whole chat. There's a bug, lost that one, whatever. Has this one. And so it's got this state. It says like, you could hit explore. We may want to like rerun query button here. I don't know. This is still kind of a work in progress. What exactly to show here? Yeah, so that's still probably a week out. We want to let agentic mode bake a little bit. Yeah.
Stephen, is the idea that we can also deep link into queries in the session, kind of a la left nav history type stuff?
We could. There's no current capability to do that now, but these all have IDs, so you could imagine, yeah.
We should just assume that people want that.
Yeah. Just to, and would you restart the history at that point, or just like, yeah?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but I think people are going to want to be able to deep link into the session, and like scroll up and down by seeing the chat history, just a la ChatGPT.
We got a request for that just yesterday from a really large customer. Basically, they're confused because they like logged away, and then when they came back, their entire full history that they wanted to show off was gone. So that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Stephen, question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
I was going to say, like, I think we want almost like named groups of sessions. So this would be like exploring users, and then underneath it, you'd want to carry out the queries.
So you definitely want that like classic. Yeah. I mean, that's like the state. That's just like how it's done.
That's exactly right. Like it's just become a standard at this point.
Yeah.
My question here is on not rerunning the query. What if it's cached? Can we just show it if it's already cached, and then we get some state here if it's like been past that period where you have to hit rerun,
We don't
or just always rerun? Is there
really have. We could always rerun the most recent query. That probably, honestly, that's probably the right thing to do, because then the ones above the fold, which 90% of the time you don't scroll up and look at, stay in this state, and this one runs. That's probably just what we should do.
Yeah, I think Nate did some cool work on the dashboards that like won't run the queries until you scroll them into view too. So we could look at something like that maybe.
The weirdness is that summarization can be referencing old data. So
yeah.
Oh, right.
There's actually no, Jamie's right. There was actually a principled reason for it, which is that so if you had the same cache,
You need like a snapshot almost of
which we could, we have the data, we deliberately throw the data away to not bloat the chat history potentially. So yeah, I don't know. We could also launch like this and just see how much, especially if we got a rerun query button here. Does this actually bother people that much, or do they mostly just want to
Can you talk about?
Oh,
sorry, Jamie, go for it.
I was just gonna say too, you can imagine even that we basically have a summarization rerun kind of a thing too, or like some sort of state that sort of indicates, hey, this is from previous result set or something. It becomes more complicated for sure, because it's not a static thing, but I'm sure we can kind of play with UI.
I was going to say, Stephen, can you just talk about the URL sharing bit and who can see what or who can't see what?
I was even going to demo it and then realized I hadn't tested that part and it didn't quite work.
Okay.
But at least URL sharing does work. So here I am as my other user, and I've got this URL. It's a different chat. I just happen to have asked the exact same questions. And I can load it as this user and see it. What is supposed to happen as an admin user is then I'm supposed to say, I'm supposed to add to the chat, and it's supposed to fork off a new chat so I don't accidentally mess with personal Stephen's chat, but it doesn't work right now.
And if you're not an admin, if I try to share that, because the thing we were, I guess the background here that we have to figure out or are trying to solve for is summary, queries are obviously very well locked behind permissions. And if we rerun queries and if you don't have access to certain rows of data, you're not going to see them. But summaries is just text. So if you have summaries in your chat and that summary is exposing rows or pieces of data that this other user wouldn't have been able to see, it's we have to handle that. So I can't remember, Stephen, if you can just fill us in on where do we leave off on the
for now
here?
For now, we're just saying link sharing with org admins only.
What if it's yours? Can the user go back through their own history?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go through your own. You can see your own links. Org admins can see your links. That's it for now. We'll certainly then endeavor to open it up more to queryers who have access to everything on the, or restricted queries who have access to all the topics that have been used in the chat. But that's later. It's also worth mentioning that we treat the AI responses like customer data. And so they're actually, the way this thing is persisted, these little bits are not actually persisted with the rest of the stuff. So the chat is structurally persisted in the database with what you said. And then the AI responses are turned into little IDs and stuffed in Redis. And so when you loads this, it pulls the thing out and then rehydrates it. And the Redis cache expires after 30 days. So basically after a certain point of the chat, if you were to load it, your responses would be there, but the 30-day-old AI responses would disappear.
Nice. And now that we're going to have URL persisted stuff there, can we include that URL in our analytics data next to the prompt or something about, or that session, so that from analytics we can deep link to rerun what the user was looking at?
Yeah, I think we already tracked the chat. This is just the chat session ID. which we already track. So we can either explicitly track the URL or
Okay, got it. So we should be able to, from now, chat session ID reconstruct URL to actually go open that up, which is a big unlock for folks that are trying to like look through session logs and actually now see the responses according to those prompts.